Hello, Bizarre Story Junkies. If you're listening right now, you're tuned in to the Bizarre AF, where we talk about the strange, the absurd, the unknown, and things that are bizarre AF. I'm Kevin, and I'll be your host for today's episode. Keep an open mind, keep a skeptical ear, but keep listening to the facts as we take you on our newest journey, the spirits of Flight 401. Hey everyone, as always, and I wouldn't have it any other way, my co-hostess with the mostess is Alicia. Hey girlfriend.
Hey.
How are you doing, babe?
You know what? I'm doing great. Especially today, I think that, one, cocktail in hand.
Oh my gosh.
Cheers.
Yes, let us have a...
There we go. You can't even see it. There we go.
This is a witch's... Wait, there we go.
Taste test.
Witch's brew.
Witch's brew. That's what we're drinking today. Yeah. I'm super stoked.
How are you doing?
Today's. I'm great. I'm ready for this podcast. Have my flight stewardess
Perfect
top on.
Oh my god, yes.
So I'm really stoked to hear.
Why didn't I put on my stupid captain's uniform?
Do you have one?
I have an Air Force. I should put my Air Force on.
Wait, we have to restart. No, I'm kidding. Next time.
Great. So, this story that we're going to talk about, it's about bad luck and tragedy, cover-ups and conspiracy, and spirits and ghosts.
Ooh, that's like everything we want to talk about.
It is like a potpourri of goodness.
Of good bizarre as fuck shit.
So you ready for some ghostly goulash?
I was born ready.
Okay. So in December of this year, it will actually be 50 years since this plane crash of Eastern Flight 401. This is the 50th anniversary.
This year. Wow.
And so I'm going to take you through the events that happened before before the flight, during the flight, and then the disastrous crash of the flight. And then we're going to talk about things that have happened after the crash.
Ooh.
So it's like a full
It's the whole
story.
spectrum of history involving this.
Yes, it's going to be beginning to end.
Okay.
Yeah. And we're going to touch on, like I said, all kinds of little pieces of the things we love to talk about.
Yeah, because just hearing about it, like the Eastern Airlines, I've never heard of Eastern Airlines.
You haven't?
No.
Oh my God, I feel so old. Fuck me. So Eastern Airlines was, clearly before your time. God damn it.
Well, you know what, Kevin? I would never guess it was during your time because you look so fucking
bless
good.
Your heart.
But what is it? It was a huge major commercial airline, right?
It was, yes.
So,
like any Southwest or whatever. Sorry,
in the United States?
Yeah, well, it was a U.S. airline. I can't remember where they flew predominantly. If it was actually Eastern, the East Coast.
Eastern side, yeah.
I think there was even a Western Airlines. I'm trying to think back. I think there might have been.
Okay, maybe they merged and became Southwest.
Maybe. I don't know. Oh yeah, that's funny.
Southwest Airlines.
Northwest, yeah. I'm sorry. I just have to. Can you see? Look at this hair.
That is not a hair.
Anybody know what that's from?
It seems like there must have been a ghoul sitting in here.
Some kind of dead ghoul.
Some kind of dead ghoul thing with amazing hair.
Yeah. Okay, so this happened. So it was 50 years. So 72.
1972.
Happened.
Okay.
So on August 18th, 1972, to be specific, there was a Lockheed, and they call them L-1011 TriStars. That's the type of plane. And it was delivered to what was then a very popular airline, Eastern Airlines. Right. This aircraft was actually the 10th TriStar to be delivered to that company, Eastern. Okay. They had ordered kind of a fleet.
Right.
Now, this particular aircraft was going to be the one that would support the New York JFK to Miami route.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it was it was going to be for that route. Now, on Friday, December 29th, 1972, this Eastern Flight 401 boarded, it taxied, it departed, all without incident. Everything was normal. Yeah. 9:20 in the evening on Eastern time. Okay. It was going to fly to Miami. There were 163 passengers on board and 13 flight crew.
Okay. Well, it's a pretty 13 flight crew. That's a big crew.
Well, this was a fancy dancy, state of the art at the time aircraft.
Wow.
Like it was the bomb.
So they were not packed in like sardines like we are in
I'm sure they
Frontier
weren't. No.
Flights or whatever.
In fact, if you go online, you can actually see some of the maps of the interior, and it looked pretty cozy. Okay. I mean, not cozy like, but like comfortable.
Yeah, you were comfortable. You probably got dressed up before you got on the flight.
Those were the days.
Instead of just wearing yoga pants.
Right, your tweed swass camel toeing out through your
tweed swass.
Stupid. Okay, so the flight was under the command of Captain Robert Loft, who was 55. He was a veteran pilot. He was ranked actually 50th in seniority at Eastern, so he had, really a lot of experience. He had been with the airline 32 years, over 2,900 hours of flight time, and on this particular aircraft, he had over 280 hours. So if you figure 2 hours of flight, I mean that's 100 and some odd flights. I mean tons of experience. Super experienced. His flight crew was First Officer Albert Stockhill. He was 39. He had over 5,800 hours of flying experience, and 306 of them on this particular aircraft. All very experienced people. There was a flight engineer, Donald Repo. He was 51. He had 1,500 hours of flight experience and 53 hours on this particular L-1011.
Okay.
Now, there was actually a company employee on this flight. He was a technical officer. Angelo Donetto, he was 47, but he was actually deadheading to Miami. And for those who aren't in the airline business, deadheading is the practice of an airline employee who's flying free of charge on a normal passenger trip so that they can be at the right place at the right time to start their shift. That's what deadheading is called. And Angelo was on this particular flight going to Miami going to be starting his shift, I believe, the next day. Flight. Totally routine. Everything was totally routine. It's about 11:32 in the evening, and they're starting to prepare for their final approach to Miami. So after they lower the landing gear, the First Officer Stockhill noticed that the indicator that confirms that the landing gear is down was not illuminated. Now, the problem with planes back then is that everything was analog. Like it was literal light bulbs behind a plastic window.
Yes.
Right? So, thank God we don't do that anymore. But the bulb for that particular indicator, come to find out later, was just burnt out. So when they lowered the landing gear, it lowered, but that little light was burnt out. So it didn't say, I'm down.
Right. So they're thinking
F. They're like, okay, the landing gear's not going down.
Fuck.
And they're smart enough to go, okay, well, is it just the bulb?
Okay.
So they're like trying to take it out and go, trying to disassemble the dashboard, for lack of a better term.
While the flight's going on.
Yes.
All these people are in the back like, oh yeah, can I get one more glass? Yeah, exactly. And the flight crew's like, fuck.
Exactly.
So, okay, I have a question about this.
Yeah.
So we have these light bulb testers for, I don't know, Christmas lights. So wouldn't you think they would, where you put it in there. Wouldn't you think that they would have like some kind of tester in the cockpit
So could you imagine doing that on every light bulb, number one? But number two, it was not just a matter of like popping off the little plastic thing. It was like an ordeal, apparently. Stupid design.
Yeah, it's really stupid design, especially when that can be such a huge deal.
Huge.
You're like, we can't land the plane.
Clearly.
Yeah.
We're talking about, clearly it's a big deal. Yeah. And the other thing is that today they can just push a little button and look at a camera that's mounted at the bottom of the plane, go, oh yeah, the landing gear's down. They didn't have that either.
Yeah, just like when we're backing up in our cars, we have a camera, we can see what's behind us.
Hello.
Oh my God.
Right. So the pilots are cycling the landing gear repeatedly, trying to go, okay, it's not going down. It's not going down. Well, maybe it is going down, but we just don't know it's going to. So they're concerned.
Right.
We may not have landing gear.
Yeah. We're going to have to just slide right on in. Slide into home.
Oh my God. So Captain Lop tells the tower at this point that they're going to discontinue their approach. Clearly, we potentially have no landing gear.
Yes.
So we're just going to go ahead and not land right now. So they said, go into a holding pattern.
Oh, okay.
So they make them do that whole loopity-loop. And so they have them, the controller says, yes, go to 2,000 feet, and you're going to, do your little hold over the Everglades.
Yes.
Okay.
Over the Everglades.
So the captain tells Officer Repo to go down to the avionics bay, which is beneath the flight deck, and they had a little small porthole that they could look. They could go, and they could see the landing gear.
Oh.
But they had to go down under the plane and look through the little hole.
No. So you see the whole flight crew walk back. You're like, what the fuck is going on?
No. So I think you actually get. Yeah. So I can't remember if it. Yeah. I don't know if that's. If you get to it from the front of the plane or the back of the plane.
Either way, it's not promising for a flight.
Right. Okay, so then Captain Loff instructs First Officer Stockhill to put the plane into autopilot so that they can focus on the landing gear. We can't fly the plane and figure out what the F's going on. So you go put the plane in autopilot. You go down and look at the little hole in the bottom of the plane.
Look at the hole.
And we're going to try to maybe pop this thing off and see if it's a bulb or, whatever. We're going to try to figure it out.
See what the actual problem is.
That's right. So for the next 80 seconds, from that point, the plane flies at the level, 2,000 feet. It then drops 100 feet, which is about 30 meters. And then again flew level for about 2 more minutes. And at that point, it starts to descend very gradually, but they're not aware that it is descending.
The pilots aren't?
They're so focused on trying to figure out the landing gear, they don't realize that the plane is very slowly descending.
Oh, no.
Right, because they have it on autopilot. They're like, we're good.
It's on autopilot.
It's on autopilot.
So it's like when you're driving and you have it on cruise control, and maybe you're not controlling the actual steering wheel or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And keep in mind, this is 11:30 at night, so it is pitch black.
Oh, it's super dark. So
they're over the Everglades. There's no homes.
Oh yeah, there's no homes. There's no lights. There's nothing to see that you're getting closer and closer to it.
And I'm not looking at the altitude at the altimeter, I think it's called. I'm focused on getting this fucking panel off of this board so I can figure out if I have landing gear.
Right. Because landing, it's yes.
You're like, Roger.
Okay, Roger, but also, I don't know, isn't there a fucking co-pilot? You told me there's a co-pilot there.
Yes, so the captain and the co-pilot are trying to focus on the landing gear while
isn't that the point of having a co-pilot?
Well, the engineer's downstairs looking through the hole.
But why do they both need to be concentrated on whether or not the landing gear?
Because one's looking through the manual, going okay. The other one's trying to get the thing off of the thing off of the bulb. The other one's trying. I mean, there's just a lot happening.
And also, they're on autopilot, so it's never fucked up before. This is not a common thing. You can kind of count on it.
We're just flying flat at 2,000 feet. Oh, shit, we're just flying flat at 2,000 feet. I don't need to care. I don't need to worry about that.
Okay, sorry. I'm just feeling this happening. I'm like, it's like my worst nightmare.
Exactly. Okay, so it continues to descend over the next few minutes until finally this altitude warning located under the engineer's workstation goes off, saying you're low. But engineers down under the fucking plane. So they don't see this warning. Because it's under the engineer's station. And he's downstairs and they don't hear anything.
Because this is an old plane.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's coming up.
Yeah, it's not like some big monitors. Yeah. Bloop, bloop.
Yeah, like FYI, you're getting close.
Right.
It's only in one area.
One
little
area, and he's not there.
Oh my God.
So the Captain Loft tells the first officer, Stockhill, those two are up there, to start the 180-degree turn back to Miami, because now they're getting a ways out, so they need to start heading back. Because if they're going to be doing the circling thing, they don't want to get too far away.
Right.
So start the 180-degree turn and to come back to the airport. So he tells them to do that. Well, when the first officer, in order to do the turn, he has to take the plane off of autopilot. So when he takes it off of autopilot, he's like, why does that not say 2,000 feet? And so...
Let's jerk it back up.
Oh, my God. And so he sees the discrepancy. He's like, that doesn't say 2,000 feet. We were supposed to be at 2,000 feet this whole entire time. And so in actuality, they're well below 250 feet.
Shut up. That's 250
That's
feet?
25 stories. That is you're right there.
You're at the ground.
Right there.
But you can't see anything because you're also over the Everglades.
Can't see a freaking thing.
Okay.
So they're...
Oh, my God.
So I'm going to play you an audio clip.
Okay.
And this audio clip is the moment that Captain Loft tells Officer Stockhill to start the 180-degree turn. And when I start playing this, it is that moment until the end.
The end.
The end.
Ooh, okay.
Okay, this is hard. Here we go.
Okay. 180. Hey, we did some of the altitude here.
What?
We're still at 2,000, right?
Hey, what's happening here?
Hey, what's happening here? Beep,
That's how
beep,
fast
beep.
it happened.
Holy shit.
That's how fast it happened.
I'm sitting in hopefully first class. Fucking drinking my cocktail and
You don't know nothing. You know nothing. Which you kind of go, okay, well, that was, at least they're not panicking. But we're going to talk about there were a lot of survivors.
shut up. Okay.
Okay. So that happened.
How fast were they going again?
They were going
fast enough?
227 miles an hour.
Fast. Okay.
I mean, not as fast. When you're flying, you're like 500, I think, up there. But you're still going 227 miles an hour.
That's still,
That's fast.
still pretty fast.
So that was about 19 miles at the end of the actual runway because they were going to do the U-turn to come back.
Right.
So with the aircraft in mid-turn, because he told them to go into the 180-degree turn. When he turns, so the first thing that hits is the
Nose.
tail,
The tail.
right? So they're turning. Bloop.
Yes. Oh, that's right.
Right. So then the tail hits the first, and then the left engine, and then the landing gear, and then the nose. And so as soon as the nose hit, it just started to tumble and disintegrated.
Oh, the whole
Right, because it's because it's just going so fast. It just went
somersaulting. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just disintegrating, splintering apart all over kind of the place. A passenger by the name of Ron Infantino
Okay.
is on this flight, and he starts to come to. And he's waking up. And he's finally getting his bearings, and he's kind of becoming conscious when he discovers he's sitting in his chair, the seatbelt fastened, sitting in a swamp.
No.
With upright, completely naked.
Shut. He's completely naked.
Completely butt-ass naked.
Talk about a rude awakening. Oh my God.
Dead silent.
Yeah. Because you're in the middle.
Hears nothing. Like nothing. Just, you could hear a pin drop, he says.
Oh my God.
And he starts to feel pain. So now his rib was hurting. He's got blood kind of dripping down his head.
Yeah.
And he's looking around and he sees all the wreckage. And in he quotes, the first thing he says is, "Oh my God, we've crashed." Like he just realized, now he suddenly realized, butt ass naked in this chair.
Yikes. So
is that fucking weird?
I mean, yeah, that's like what nightmares are made out of. Like that's what you think. That's your giant snowball.
Yes, exactly. Totally.
But it's like you wake up from it and you're like, was he sleeping?
Was it?
Was
No.
he actually sleeping before?
No.
Oh,
No.
So he was knocked out.
He
was
knocked out,
unconscious.
right? Yeah, and trying to put the pieces together when you wake up like
Yes.
that, you're like confusing.
Oh my God. But he's still, how weird would that be if you're like sitting, you're like, okay, I'm still seated. Okay,
Naked in a seatbelt.
I was on a
swamp
flight.
naked.
In a swamp, totally naked. I mean, not to be crude or rude or whatever, but like the mosquito bites.
The alligators.
Yeah, I guess alligators. I'm like the mosquito bites would be awful. Because how long? The question is like, how long was he unconscious?
Seconds.
Okay. So he woke up pretty quickly
Yeah.
after
Yes.
it had happened.
Yes.
And he was sitting, was he like submerged in swamp?
Yes.
Okay.
It was like, I don't think,
Up to
I think it was, well, actually, I think at one point he said, when I read his interview, he said it was chin deep.
Chin deep.
Chin deep.
So you're like, oh, I'm in this like weird water,
Yeah.
maybe cold or whatever.
Yeah.
Shock to your system.
Shocked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck. And you can't hear anything. Then you're
Can't
like, oh
hear
yeah, I
anything.
did take a flight.
I did just crash.
Oh, wow.
So 101 people died that night. The deceased comprised of 3 of the 4 cockpit crew,
Oh my God.
2 of the 10 flight attendants, and 96 of the 163 passengers. So that leaves 75 survivors
Wow.
of that monstrosity of a crash.
And just thinking about that, like you wake up, even if you're like you're in a flight, you wake up, you knew that you were on, you're heading to Miami or whatever, going to party it up because
Yes.
that's what is great about going to Miami.
Yes.
Watching all the cool like outfits and shit. So you're there and then you wake up. It's not like you have like a captain or like the whole flight crew is like, hey, our systems got fucked up. This is what happened. You are basically alone. Not only that, looking around, I'm sure that it's pitch black. It's not like you have a cell phone. Like you might, well, even if he did have a pocket, his pocket's gone anyways.
Well, not in 1979.
Not in 1979. So it's like you don't have a flashlight with you.
That's the other thing. They did not have flashlights. That wasn't a mandatory piece of equipment on airlines back then. So not even the flight
my
attendants
God.
had a flashlight.
So you're in a fucking swamp in the Everglades.
Some things like a few things on fire, smoldering,
right.
wreckage everywhere.
Yeah.
And then you start hearing people moaning,
Yeah.
screaming.
Potentially, I mean, come on, you're
Dying.
probably dying. Yeah, exactly.
So due to some of the quick thinking actions of those flight attendants and despite their actual own injuries, a lot of them were credited with helping the passengers actually to survive.
Oh, wow.
They also quickly assessed the situation and began yelling out to the other survivors, like if you have, because you could smoke on planes and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, that's
They're
right.
like, do not light your fucking lighter because there's flight fuel everywhere.
Oh, I would never think about that.
They did instantly and said,
What heroes?
don't light, do not strike matches or light your lighter.
Yeah, don't,
Because we would then all die.
fuck.
Yeah, the smart.
Can we give them gold medals? Like,
Yeah.
okay, so all those flight attendants who, deal with all the dumb bullshit.
Right.
We are giving you guys official gold standard hero medals.
So I have the Dumbass You Crazy Award.
Oh yeah. But
we need to come up with a hero award.
You fucking superstar.
Yeah. Superstar award. Yeah. I'll come up with that next time. Okay. So they did some really cool things. So they tried to calm the survivors down, and they started singing Christmas carols to try to keep everyone calm.
Oh, what a great idea.
Keeping up people's hopes. Just doing all the, the good things that you would hope that they would do. Like I mentioned before, flashlights weren't part of that equipment and at the time, so they had no light. They had no source of light. So I'd do a lot of this in the dark.
So we're probably saying Marco Polo.
Oh God, can you imagine? Marco
Polo.
Oh my God, it's terrible. Going to hell. All right, so of the cockpit crew, only the flight engineer Repo, the guy who they sent down to the electronics bay,
right?
He was the one that survived the initial crash. He did end up passing in the hospital, but he didn't die instantly. Along with that technical officer Donato, who I told you about was deadheading. So he actually had gone down into the electrical bay, come to find out, with Officer Repo to help him. Oh. They didn't know that at the time, but they knew that he was on the plane, and so he had asked him to come down and help him, and try to figure it out.
He's conscious, so
yeah.
Thank God we have someone.
Right, exactly.
Fuck.
So Stockhill, who was the co-pilot, he was killed on impact. Captain Loft died in the wreckage of the flight deck before he could be transported to the hospital. So he didn't die instantly, unfortunately. Kind of.
Yeah, that's awful.
And Repo was evacuated to the hospital, like I said, but he also later died.
Do we know if they were conscious?
Yes, I think the captain.
Oh God, that sucks. That totally sucks. I guess I wonder if he was able to remember what was going on in that moment and say like, hey, this is what happened. This is where we're at. Maybe like another question I guess I have is in the 1970s, did they have like an SOS? Were they able to, because obviously like the what's it called? The people who are watching flight control, they knew that this flight was, then all of a sudden
they knew, and they could see it descending,
right? Because
yes, and yeah, so they knew what had happened, and then it goes off of radar, so they knew clearly something was wrong, which is I think how they got help pretty quickly,
right? Good God,
yeah. So Repo was evacuated to the hospital. He later died from his injuries. Donato was the lone survivor of that 4-deck flight crew, and he ultimately recovered from all of his physical injuries.
Talk about guilt.
Oh, could you imagine?
No, I could not, honestly. I really, truly could not.
Heartbreaking.
You would think, honestly, I would think that he would have died if he were in like not the hole or like the basement of the ship.
Yeah, what did I call it? The something under the flight deck. Yeah, whatever that was down there.
We're going to call it the hull.
Okay, the hull.
But the hull, like the hull of the ship, like you would think that makes impact. But I mean, I guess the way that it fell.
Yeah, because remember, it was doing this whole side turning. And so it hit kind of on its side.
I would never guess that.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think, I don't know, that's some okay, that dude has some kind of lucky clover,
it wasn't his time.
Whatever. It was not his time.
No.
Chances are
not
you're
in a
dead.
Seatbelt.
Completely
just like open into this place that's not meant for human beings to be when you fly.
Right. Yeah. And he's still alive.
Still alive.
Wow.
Yes. So the investigation discovered that the autopilot had been inadvertently switched from altitude hold to what they call control wheel steering, CWS, in pitch mode. So in this mode, once the pilot releases pressure on the yoke, which is the thing that they do, the autopilot remains in that pitch of that altitude of the aircraft until it's moved again. And they think what happened is that the captain, when they were talking or moving or doing whatever, he kind of tapped the yoke.
Oh, he was leaning into it to
right.
make it descend.
So maybe he tapped, forward or something, and that's what caused it to go boop. Okay, so now I'm going to start descending. So that's what autopilot just kept. So it took whatever that command was and just kept with it.
Okay.
Right.
Why thank God we're not on flights like this. And like our flights are by and large computers just flying us.
Totally.
Which,
like my Tesla. I mean,
yes.
they've gotten so far that it's smart enough to go, I'm not going to acknowledge your tap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you're fucking not paying attention.
Exactly.
You're a little drunk.
Yeah.
But what I think is really interesting about that is like, one, the precedence that it could, like, why the fuck is that even an option for a plane to do? Like, it makes zero sense why that would even be something that would be useful in flight.
I know. Who knows?
Right. I mean, we're here, what, however many years later. And
right.
Thankfully, it's no longer a thing, probably.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know.
You have to learn those things, unfortunately, the terrible hard way. So yeah, as I said, that slight pressure forward on that stick would have caused that aircraft to enter that slow descent. And again, it was a CWS system is what they called it. And so that's what happened. And so it didn't warn them that it was doing it because it assumed that was intentional. The captain wanted them to do that.
Right, as you would.
As you would. Uh-huh. So in an effort to save money, Eastern Airlines salvages and kept as many of those valuable components as the airplane as they could for spare parts for other planes.
Up.
So they didn't keep anything that was
damaged.
No, it was. If it had, yeah, exactly. If it was a small dent, we'll keep it.
Yeah. It's like a can, like when you're going grocery shopping, you get like a dent, in the canned food.
Oh, it's just a dent.
Oh, it's just a dent. It's fine. It's not going to hurt you or cause cancer. Like that's totally cool.
It was the rust that kills you.
Right, exactly. Don't worry about it. Botulism. It's totally fine. Like, yeah, not a thing. You did get it 30% off.
Right, so exactly.
We're saving money.
30% off your botulism.
We are approaching recession, so every penny counts.
Exactly. Oh my God.
Thank you, Eastern Airlines. Good God.
Right? So they want to keep these parts, and so when they build new planes, we'll just use these parts that have just not really even been used because it's a brand new plane, and so we're just going to use that part for them. So it's a little money.
Cheap motherfuckers.
So Eastern claims that these airplanes were top of the line, right? These are the latest and greatest of airplanes. So that shit was super expensive. And so we're trying to save money so that the passengers
can save money flying comfort.
Yeah.
No, thank you. Okay, if there's anything, if I'm flying fucking whatever, I don't care if I'm in coach. I don't care if I'm strapped to the side of the fucking plane or in first class, like I would prefer. But give me working parts that have not been in a plane
an actual
crash.
Accident. Yeah. That'd be really appreciative.
Yes, thank you.
So they say if they could recover these expensive parts and restore them and clean them up and make them certified worthiness, then it saves everyone in the long run. It's a good thing.
Yes.
So sure enough, they did in fact install many of these salvaged parts in other planes. One example, they were able to salvage a full galley, and put this whole galley into this particular plane.
Did it have blood from the previous passengers?
No, they cleaned it up.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it was nice and squeaky clean. They painted it over all the blood and fucking bones and shit.
So Eastern has never been transparent with this information.
Oh my God.
So it's difficult to get the full scope of actually what they did replace and what they did salvage.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
But it's been very proven that they did do it. Just they're just not fully clear as to exactly what they did and where they did it.
Yeah, they're like, remember that light bulb that went out?
We did not salvage that light bulb.
No, the light bulb has been salvaged. We just reworked the wiring with fucking something else faulty. Like, no wonder why that fucking light bulb on a brand new plane wasn't working. That they're probably cutting corners everywhere, and that's You know what's so fucked up about that? That is no different than flights today and
Of course.
planes today.
Or not even planes. Like, you see that shit all the time when they try to pinch pennies, cut corners, save money. Oh, but it's going to save our consumer in the long run.
It'll save, they're
and
just
then
making
people,
more.
like you said, get botulism or E. coli or whatever.
Or I don't know, die in a fucking plane crash. Like, what the fuck?
Jesus Christ.
Ugh.
So, over the following months and years, stories started circulating that employees of Eastern Airlines and the numerous passengers had reported sightings of dead crew members, including Captain Robert Loft and Second Officer Donald Repo aboard other L-1011s.
What?
They're literally reporting seeing them on these other L-1011s. How could that be, one might ask? Well, let's go into that for a moment.
Yeah.
So first I'm going to tell you all of the different ghost stories that people have talked about.
Let's hear it. I'm ready.
Okay. The vice president of Eastern Airlines, he boards a flight from New York. And he chats with a pilot on the plane, and who he assumed was a pilot of this particular flight. He didn't know. He was just chatting. Later, after the fact, he recognized that the pilot he'd been speaking to was Bob.
Shut up. What were they talking about? Do we have like any details as far as that?
Never went into details about what they were talking about, but just that he was chatting up with Bob.
It's like, oh yeah,
Hey,
hope we have yeah.
You like your job? You're cool. Yeah, like, where are you flying to tomorrow?
Yeah. Have you ever, like, I don't know,
Have you ever flown to Miami?
Yeah, have you ever been to? You want to go on to a flight to Miami? Go down with the ship.
Exactly.
Fuck.
Oh my God.
That's what nightmares are made out of.
Exactly.
You have this ghostly fucking pilot who's like, you want to go down with a ship with me? It's like, no, Bob. Nobody wants to go down.
No, Bob.
No, nobody wants to go down with the ship. That is an antiquated fucking thing. No one wants to do.
And what we'll find out here in a little bit is that Bob was actually, like, not trying to haunt people. He was trying to protect them.
Oh.
He was trying to say, you're on a planes that have some used shit. He was like, he felt guilty. His spirit felt guilty.
So it's like he's trying to prevent what happened to him.
He's trying to stop it. Yes.
Happen again. And also, it was, kind of his fault potentially, right?
There was some negligence involved.
Yes, like he was leaning on the actual, like, I don't know, steering wheel thing.
One wouldn't think to look at the altimeter when you're on autopilot, but clearly that was a human mistake.
Yes, it was human error. So he's trying to potentially right some wrongs in order to cross over.
Yes, that's the thing. A lot of these spirits were stuck on this plane. They could not go beyond.
Well, they didn't even know that they were dead. Right? Because it happened, so you said 250 feet.
That's right.
25 stories.
Boom.
Fucking done.
Boom.
How would you would never think.
You might not know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might not know. Well, remember, Ron didn't know he was in a plane crash until after a few minutes.
Right. Until he's like, chest deep in fucking swamp water.
That's right.
Yeah. And thank God, I'm having some pain. And these flight attendants are saying, don't let your fucking sing. I'm waking up to Silent Night.
Oh my God.
That would be the worst
is a nightmare.
one. Yeah, it totally is.
So another time, a captain was asked to check on a passenger in first class who was a pilot. It was in a pilot's uniform. And the senior flight attendant said that he was like dazed and unresponsive. And when spoken to, he wasn't on the passenger list. And again later, the captain recognized him as a Bob.
A Bob.
No, the
Bob.
A Bob. The Bob. A flight attendant on a New York flight to Miami. She opened up an overhead locker because a customer had wanted something. Yeah. She saw Bob's head.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, so much so that she flew back into the passenger seat because it scared her so much because she literally saw a head.
Dude, this is like Beetlejuice.
Yeah, totally.
This is like Beetlejuice.
Yes.
Beetlejuice, Bob, and he fucking appears.
Right. So on another flight, a flight attendant saw Dawn's face on the oven door and like in that galley. So she called 2 crew in to see what she had witnessed to make sure that she wasn't like
She wasn't going crazy,
and
yeah.
they saw him. And then, and he said, watch out for the fire on this plane.
What?
And on the returning flight, that engine on that plane failed and had to be shut down before it caught fire.
What the fuck?
So these captains are like you guys are like flying on planes that had my broken shit in it.
Yes.
So careful.
Yes. So it's almost like it kind of feels like they're trying to not repent, but like prevent something that had happened to them from how it's almost like they're like guardian angels or like watchers.
Like you said,
or
I
something.
think they couldn't cross over. They weren't in peace.
A penance, paying a penance, or trying to make up.
Yeah,
for
maybe they
something.
felt so guilty.
Yeah.
Again, bottom line, human error.
Right.
So
Yes.
maybe they did. Maybe they were like, I can't go because
I have to make sure that these people.
I have to, yeah. Ugh. Okay, so here's another one. One day, a crew were in a cockpit discussing airplane stuff when they discovered Don sitting right next to them. And then he warns them of this faulty electrical circuit. And they're like, what the hell? Like, what? Well, they decided to go check it out. And so they went and just, okay, well, we'll go look at whatever this, because they were confused. They're like,
Right.
what am I seeing? Yeah, they did, in fact, discover a faulty circuit. They found it and they replaced it.
Okay. So if you're in a small, like these pilots were well known. This was a huge plane crash, right?
Yes.
So I think that word probably spreads saying like, hey, Bob and Don are fucking telling us that like things.
Oh,
so
yes.
like FYI, you know, if you see Bob or Don,
Start listening.
Yeah, make sure you listen to what they're saying.
Right.
Because they're calling some real shit out.
Exactly.
Holy shit. So like out of curiosity, how long was this going on?
Years.
Years.
Yeah.
So this is so folklore, like this is something that is building. People know.
People are really starting to know
And pay attention.
Starting to know about this. And
It's almost probably welcomed if you see, well, not welcome, like you're like, fuck, our plane could crash, but like,
Right.
But you're like, hey, they're warning us.
God, I hope I see Bob.
Yeah. If I don't see Bob, then I could be dead or everything's fine.
Yeah, right.
It's one of
Or
the
everything's
two.
fine. So Bob was seen doing free pre-flight checks on the aircrafts, and told the ground staff it would be okay as he'd already had completed the flight checks. And the pilot was so unnerved by what had happened, he just completely canceled the flight.
I would too. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, you what? Wait, you're like you completed? Wait, what?
He comes in, Bob's like,
And now I got it. It's all good.
Hey, John. Don't worry about it. I already checked everything out. It's like,
Everything's
bitch,
good.
you fucking made your flight. Like you were pushing on your fucking steering wheel and made the flight descend anyways. I do not count on you to make sure that our fucking flight check is okay. I would totally cancel it. I'd be like, yeah, no.
Right?
This is not something I want to fuck with.
Crazy.
Yeah, too crazy.
Fuck. So here's the last one. So while in a cockpit one day preparing for the flight, a pilot heard loud knocks from under the floor underneath him. And when he opened that trap door, which is where they had sent Repo, Dawn is looking right at him, who then immediately disappeared. And he wanted to look further. And so the pilot went down there to look, and he actually found a problem down there that could have caused a serious problem with the flight. So had he not seen Don's face, he wouldn't have seen this potentially bad problem. So the moral of all of these stories is they weren't there to be creepy or haunty or weird. They were doing this to help people.
Yeah, to make sure that they didn't make the same mistakes that they had.
That's right. Right.
It's almost like okay, so here's a question that I have for you is like when you're kind of, I guess, paying penance or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is that one of those things that you feel like you need to do? Like, do you feel like I have unfinished business and I need to make up for a mistake that I made, and so I'm going to spend all this energy, all this time?
I think that's some of it. I think, like you had said before, they weren't ready to die. They didn't know. Maybe some of them may not have really even realized they were dead. In fact, there's one woman that we'll talk about here in a minute who passenger who I don't think knew was dead.
Oh.
And so I think that's just it. They had felt such guilt.
Mm-hmm. Over 100 passengers, right, that died.
Yeah.
So you didn't just kill yourself. It's one thing if you make a mistake and you're the person that ends up passing away, but
you kill people.
If you kill people, or even like I think that there could be a lot of guilt potentially if you have because that's, okay, here's the thing, energy, right? Like something traumatic, an extreme, there's like an energy signature, or there's like you can go to like the Twin Towers in New York City, like the memorial, and people say,
yes,
God, it's a really weird feeling here. I can feel the extreme, like the extreme feelings and stuff, and like there's just something odd there. You have a place like or a situation like this where it was incredibly sudden. It was a total accident. A lot of people had no idea that they, had even died or whatever. The energy that's associated with that is interesting. And I think that could be like something that, I don't know.
Oh no, that is absolutely something. And in fact, there is something called psychometry.
We discussed that on our communication.
Spirits can connect to physical objects. That energy can connect to physical objects. And that's what I really think happened here, is that these pieces and parts get put on all these other planes, and so these energies are connected to these pieces that are on these planes.
Right. That traumatic experience, that the energy of that trauma is in the plane, these existing planes themselves. So why wouldn't you warn someone like there's something wrong? I mean, if I'm a ghost, I would most certainly do something like that. I want to make sure.
You would think so. You would hope so.
You'd hope so. Yeah. If you had enough. But I think part of it, just a theory of mine, is like part of it has to do with that extreme, like unknowing, extreme situation where a shitload of people die and there's like a huge loss. I feel like that's a huge part of it, where that can take on, and like for years afterwards, warn flight crews.
Agreed. Yeah.
I don't know.
So after these sightings didn't stop, the crew was encouraged to report every single incident pertaining to this flight aircraft in the logbook on the plane, no matter how big or how small. So there's this logbook that they have on planes, and they were encouraged to log everything.
All of the supernatural stuff that was happening.
Anything out of the ordinary, they were told to log. There were a lot of sightings that were recorded in these flight books. I mean, and across all the many of the planes, right? So imagine these flight books, and there's just all these like logs. And so we know this not only from the numerous reports our eyewitnesses, right, from people that who report it, but then the sightings were reported by the Flight Safety Foundation publication. And of course, this is to the extreme disapproval of Eastern Airlines.
Of course it is. Eastern Airlines is like, no, we don't want to know. We don't want people to know that we have like ghost parts on our fucking existing flights.
To the no. No. Okay, so now suddenly Eastern Airlines CEO is dismissing all these claims and saying it's a bunch of nonsense and, quote, garbage. And so now the crew is warned, do not talk about the sightings. Do not report the sightings. Don't document these sightings and do not spread any words of ghosts. And if you do, you will be fired.
Fucking Eastern Airlines. God damn.
So now guess what? The logbooks
Disappear.
bum 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 are gone.
Oh, they all disappear. All of
Disappeared.
these. So all these stories that they're having
Yep.
are now lost.
That they had all logged. Yep. All gone.
Oh my God.
Oh. I had to do it. I had to do it.
I knew you had that somewhere.
Yeah. So now Eastern Airlines is like, F that. This is not real. So they're in what they feel like is a complete PR nightmare. And while they're publicly denying that their planes were haunted, they decided they would go ahead and remove all. They said like, we're not haunted, but we're gonna go ahead and take those parts out of those other planes that we.
So they knew exactly where they placed them.
You know exactly where they. Yeah, we're gonna take that shit out. We're gonna replace that with some new stuff because they probably need repaired anyway.
Probably if you're Eastern Airlines, yeah.
Then guess what happened?
Goes away.
Goes away.
Okay, here's the thing. I'm looking from a marketing perspective, from a marketing standard, okay? Now, would you, let's say, okay, it's like we're having like all these weird things. We're going to design a plane with like a bunch of new parts, but like some of them are going to have like these weird ghostly apparitions potentially attached to it. Would you fly on a flight like that?
If it had apparition, yeah.
I
Because they're not gonna crash the plane. That's not their intent.
No, their intention is to make sure that you definitely do not crash. I think that you could make a shitload of money. Eastern Airlines, like, no wonder why you're no longer. Yeah, you definitely missed out. Like, say, ooh, haunted flights. Are you going to see Bob or Don?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Let's have a fucking resident psychic on the flight.
Right.
We'll do fucking tarot cards and like, Ouija board sessions.
Oh,
like this could be a great thing. Eastern Airlines blew it.
They blew it.
Just like one creepy flight.
Yeah, you don't have to do it on all of them.
No. You could use the same plane. Just don't say it's a creepy one.
Exactly. It's like, this is a very specific flight.
Yes.
That is this experience.
Yeah. It's an entire like experience. We're gonna go somewhere creepy, like I don't know, Charleston, South Carolina, or Charleston, South Carolina. I don't know. Anyway, I hate that. I'm gonna listen back and be like, God damn it, Alicia, you're so stupid.
Okay, so Bob and Don.
Yes.
Never seen them from again.
They're gone.
They're gone.
Because all those parts are gone. Potentially.
They're happy.
I guess, yeah.
They're like, okay, now we're good.
Now we can rest.
Now we can rest. So did it happen instantly? Like, was it over time? I mean, we'll never know for sure, right? Did it like happen that way? Like, I took it off, they're gone. Take it off, they're gone. I mean, I don't know, whatever, but they're gone. The point is they're gone. And either way, these employees of these planes, they said that the sightings had stopped. Passengers were no longer reporting them. So it's something.
Yeah. There's something up.
It's something. Yeah. So there are like a shitload of books and movies about this.
I have never heard of this
Isn't
before.
it crazy?
It's crazy. It's crazy. I've never heard of this.
Ghost of Flight 01, 1976 book. Crash, 1977 book. Crash, the movie, starring William Shatner, 1978.
Oh my God, yes. Live long and prosper, bitch.
Ghost of Flight 401, Ernest Borgnine, 1978 film.
What?
Ghost of Flight 401, Bob Welsh, 1979 song. Ghost of Flight 401, 2022 documentary, which is kind of what made me come to this to talk about
story.
this. Yeah. That particular documentary had this guy named Steve Shippey and a medium named Cindy Kaza, who's also a psychographer. She does psychography. She does spirit writing. I mean, she does everything. It all. Yeah. So she seems to me like the very same kind of person like Tyler Henry. You know how he does the He does the
It's like
spirit, kind of
automatic
spirit writing, automatic writing.
and he also holds on to an item.
Yes, and he can touch things.
Yes.
Yes. So she seems very similar in
In that.
skill in that as he does.
Okay.
So in this documentary, this medium Cindy, he takes the Steve guy. He takes her to the Everglades in one of those boats.
Like
with the big
with the
fans.
propellers, or like
So they can go over the water.
We'll call
and
them skimmers. I don't think
I can't
that's a
remember
cute name
what
for
they're
it.
called. So he takes her into the Everglades, but he doesn't take her directly into the site. He just takes her into the general vicinity. Airboat, that's what they call it, as an airboat. Mm-hmm. And he asks her to take me to the site.
Take me to your.
He asks her, who has never been there, to direct me to the site. Now he knows where it is.
She's in control. Saying,
he knows where it is, right?
Hey, here's a test.
Yeah,
Let's
here's
see
all
if you
I'm
actually know where you're going.
Yeah. Have your experience taking me there. Yeah. Okay. So they're weaving all through the sawgrass, on this little thing.
Right.
And
is it at night?
This is during the day.
During the day. Right, because you couldn't see where you're going, so that makes sense.
She takes him directly there. And when she's explaining it, she goes, well, that's weird. I see it here, over here, and I see it over there. And so she's confused as she's not to this. But Steve says, well, that makes sense because it actually hit there and it ended up over there. So he connected those two together.
Right.
That way. Okay. So this is where it's like, so the idea of departed souls being able to retain some sort of relationship with inanimate objects like salvage parts of a plane, like I said, is connected to what is known as psychometry, and that's when a person can touch something and obtain some sort of information or fact about that thing.
Can feel its energy. Feel its energy. Yeah.
Exactly. And so she performs this at the levee. So in this particular area of the Everglades, there's a levee.
Okay.
And so she's touching this levee, and she says she's hearing this woman just screaming for this child, screaming. And she says it's overwhelmingly loud.
Yeah.
And she keeps, like, Cindy keeps saying these things. So, like, she goes, window, galley, wheel, belt, chair, window. And she keeps calling out these plane parts, and she goes, there's something with plane parts. So I'm not getting this thing with this plane. There's like something happening with plane parts, with plane pieces. And of course, then Steve goes, well, it's because these plane pieces became integral parts of other planes. He says that's how he connected the two. And then she kept saying there was something wrong with lights. There's a light or something about light malfunction. There's lights, something wrong with lights. Ooh. And he goes, well, yeah, because the landing gear
light was what
malfunctioned.
That's what fucked the whole plane. Yeah.
Right. So then they talk to a couple of the flight attendants. And Mercy Ruiz, she's one of the flight attendants. So she takes a picture of the flight attendants all together on the plane before takeoff because it was the holidays. And she's like, well, we might not ever fly together again. So let's all get together and like take this picture.
Back then, in the 70s.
This is right before the flight
takes off. Ooh.
And so she takes pictures of all these flight attendants.
And remember, pictures today, cameras today, we can see the instant, like,
this is
picture.
on a film.
This is film.
And so she takes the picture, and it's 9 of the 10 flight attendants, because one had to take the picture.
Right.
Well, one of the she was in the picture. She's like going like this to like one of the other flight attendants. And another flight attendant to the other one is kind of going like this, and she's going
Oh, so like she's putting her
Like,
hands
yeah,
around
just
her
like,
throat and
then-
like making the dead face.
Right. So the girl that got the bunny ears and the girl that got choked, those were the two that died.
Shut the fuck up. That's so creepy.
That's
That is so creepy, dude. I mean, is it a coincidence? I don't know, maybe. But
those are the two.
why did they have to do that? Don't now moving forward. If you are a flight attendant, and you're listening right now, and you're taking a picture before a flight, do not do those.
Don't do those things
because you never know. You
never
could
know.
be putting a fucking
my
hex or something on these other attendants.
Right?
That's weird.
Weird. So they talk. So one of the women has. Oh yeah. So she's concerned, right? She's like, "Did we kill them?"
Yeah, I would feel that way for sure.
And
You're
what's-
already in a traumatic situation. Yeah.
And what's interesting is there was, out of that whole destruction, there was one suitcase that was recovered. It was hers that had that camera completely intact.
That's fucking weird, dude. That's very, very strange.
Right?
Everything else was lost.
Yeah, everything was just completely destroyed, shredded. But they recovered that suitcase with that camera.
At least maybe her family had. Well, wait.
Yeah, so that flight attendant
was still
survived.
alive.
Yeah, she survived.
Talk about survivor guilt.
No-
Talk about
no
never
bueno.
make like fucking like
No bueno.
bunny ears or
No bueno.
yikes.
So now I'm going to throw out a little skepticism.
Okay.
Okay. And I have nothing against Steve. This is my opinion. But so in Steve's documentary, he's holding this device.
Okay.
And it looks like a small handheld recorder. You know those old, you put those little bitty tapes in there and you would
Yes.
record things?
Uh-huh.
It kind of looks like that.
Okay.
He never says what it is, but when I did research to try to figure out what that could potentially be,
Yeah.
it's either something called a Frank's box, a ghost box, or a Spiricom.
Yes.
And so
I've heard of these.
it apparently records sounds that you can't hear.
Yeah. It's like not you like with we have awful hearing, right? Like
Yes.
as humans. So
Yes,
we
certain
have really,
range.
Yeah.
Yes.
But other animals, things like that, like they're these electric voice phenomenons.
Precise. That is
EVPs.
exactly it. EVPs. Bingo, girl. And so he, like I said, he never says what's in his hand, but he's taking this thing and he asks a question. He turns it on and he asks a question. And he says, by the way, sorry, this is the other thing that pisses me off.
Okay, let's hear it.
They go out to the Everglades at pitch black.
Okay.
Like, I'm sorry, why do you have to go out there at night? I mean, I know
Right,
the answer.
right.
It's called drama.
I mean, we love drama, but
But you don't have to
Scientific?
talk
No.
scientifically. You do not have to go out there in pitch fucking black.
no. You're just trying to create a mood or an ambiance. I mean,
Exactly. Okay, it's TV.
yeah. Let's
Whatever.
make it more extreme, whatever.
Whatever. Okay. But I'm sorry, if I was going to be like really, truly like independence, facts kind of person,
Yes.
I wouldn't be going out in the middle of the night where I could hardly see my equipment.
No, for sure. No, it's just it adds to the creep factor. It's
Yes,
not very scientific.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's creep factor. So he turns on this recorder and he goes, "What is your name?" And he waits a minute, right? Because obviously you need to record the response.
Yeah.
And then he stops and he rewinds it and he plays. And you hear, like any dumb recording, you hear, right?
Right.
Because it's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
And then you hear, and he looks at the camera and he goes, "Charles, did you hear that?" I'm like, okay, it could sound like Charles. Okay, I'll
Right.
give you that. Like, okay, so it's Charles. Fine. Okay, fine. I'm gonna
Whatever,
go. I'm gonna
whatever.
stick with you.
I'm riding on this train.
I'm
That's
riding
fine.
on your train. Okay, it's Charles. You're talking to Charles. Okay. So then he turns it back on and he goes, "Charles, if you have a message, I'm open to listening to you." And then he waits, stops, rewinds, plays, and then you hear him go, and then you hear, you hear like
white
like
noise.
recordings, like
yeah.
And then on the bottom of the screen, like in closed captioning, it types out, "I'm the one who died in the plane crash."
Bullshit.
And so then he goes like this. He goes, "Did you hear that? This is like the best EVP recording I've ever recorded in my life. Here, listen again." And he stops, rewinds, plays. And on the screen, it says, "I'm the one who died in the plane crash." He goes, "Did you hear that?"
No, we did not hear
I'm
that.
like, literally, I did not hear that.
So it's like the power of suggestion, right? Like that's,
Yes.
that is, if you're sitting there, you're playing something and you say, "Oh, this is what it says." And you'll be like, "I guess I can hear that. Sure, I'll give it to you. Like we're riding this train. Yeah, fine."
Right.
That's why I have an issue with EVPs. Like I've never heard some, with the exception of actually a couple that I have friends who have recorded. Like typically you have you're in the Everglades. There's a lot of animals. There's a lot of sounds. It's in a natural, like you're outside where there are frogs and there are, I don't know, fucking toads and alligators and like fucking bugs and stuff that are super buzzy.
Yeah.
So it's like, are we really hearing that? I think probably not. Like you're
And that's
not,
what kills me
Yeah.
because he literally said, quote, and I'm quoting you here. This is a literal quote. He says, "This is quite possibly one of the greatest EVPs I've ever captured in my life."
bro.
And I heard,
Oh my God. Kevin, that was a total EVP. Can you believe that?
that said, "I'm the one who died in this plane crash."
Yeah,
Did you not hear that?
That, I think that, the skepticism, I'm with you on it. I think that when it comes to that kind of shit, you have like people who are like, they really want to believe. And trust me, I want to believe. But you can't be outside and say it's like a controlled environment. That is not a controlled environment.
Right.
And really, like, the power of suggestion is incredibly powerful, right?
Yes.
Like if you tell someone this is what's,
Yeah, the
someone's
sky's red. You
gullible-
go, "No, it's blue." I'm like, "No, it is red. Don't you see it's red?" And if I tell you you're ugly enough, eventually
Yes.
you're going to believe you're ugly.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So if I keep telling you that it says I'm the one who died in the plane crash, eventually you're going to believe me.
Yes. Oh, for sure. Yeah. I'm going to listen to it over and over again. If you want to hear something, you're going to hear it. You're going to see it. I'm with you. This guy is it's almost like he's taking away the validity of these real
It
experiences.
felt like it. Like I wanted to believe him. And he had all this great equipment.
The equipment's great.
And then until he did that, then he lost
Yeah.
me. He lost me on that.
I think that like there is a fine line, right? You kind of want to create some kind of drama, like you were saying. They have all these funds. I have never heard of this Flight 401. Like I've never heard of it. So, you're trying to create some kind of new experiences that are clearly not happening.
Yes.
And I get it. I get the drama behind it, but I mean, it's really disregarding one, a tragedy that happened, and then two, these real like logged items that were occurring
Yes.
after
Yes.
the crash had happened. Like that's legitimate.
Yes.
That guy sucks.
Yeah, I was so unhappy about that. Now, if y'all are, I'm not judging, but if you want to see the physical artifacts, there actually are some. The original floorboard from Flight 401 is in an archives in the History Miami in South Florida. There's pieces of Flight 401 wreckage that can also be found in what's it's called Ed and Lorraine's Warren's Occult
yeah.
Museum in Connecticut.
Ed and Lorraine, yeah.
Yep, they have some pieces.
Oh, that's
So if you're
interesting.
interested in seeing them, they're there.
They have a haunted museum.
Okay. All right. Well,
The Conjuring, yeah.
that's
Flight
my
401.
story, girl.
You know,
do you have any thoughts about stuff?
I do. I think that one, I've never heard of this, story.
Okay.
It does not surprise me that like a company would try to reuse these parts. It's a little scary though, right? Like you don't want
It's disconcerting.
Hopefully it's super disconcerting, and you'd hope that they wouldn't be doing this moving forward like right now on the flights that we get on, but it would not surprise me
No,
if
it
they
wouldn't.
did that. I do think there's some validity to this story. Like I if all of these people were having these experiences
Yes.
that are tangible, and also, hey, these pilots and stuff are calling out equipment that's actually failing.
Yeah.
And we have record of replacing it. Like,
Yes.
this is legitimate shit that we can't explain.
Right.
It fits into like our world of the bizarre.
Yes. It
So
does.
that's really where we need to focus on, you know? Like, I think that we should focus on that and call that shit we can't explain. You know, file that into the huge ass filing cabinet of shit we cannot explain,
Right.
but has some validity.
Totally.
When you have people bringing out EVPs and shit, it's like, god damn, like
I
it just
know.
kind of cheapens
Kinda
everything.
It cheapens it. That's
Yeah.
exactly it.
So I've never heard of it, and I love that story.
Good.
It's so great.
It had like all little pieces of all kinds of stuff, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It had
conspiracies and the
conspiracy,
cover up.
The cover up. It had
Ghosts.
It's kind of tragedy, right? Like some like weird shit, like all these things happening at once to create this
Yep.
awful situation. But
Yep.
yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
That was a great one, Kevin.
Dive into that one and it starts to get kind of juicy.
Yes. I'm sure there are more stories that you didn't even have time to cover.
Totally. Oh yeah, exactly. I had to whittle it down a little bit.
For
but
sure.
Yeah, good. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. Well, I guess we'll chat again in a couple weeks.
Yes.
Looking forward to that, as always. And we'll see all you guys on the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.